Good afternoon and welcome to Empower today on Friday the 22nd of May. I hope that you have had a fruitful week. We have been thinking this week from Sunday service to our podcast on Monday and today about Jesus saying, I am the good shepherd in John 10 verses 11 to 18. Jesus is the good shepherd. He echoes that shepherd that God was in the Old Testament. As we looked at in Psalm 23 on Monday. And that theme continues into the other letters written by some of Jesus' disciples in the New Testament. And one of those is written by Peter. He says this in 1 Peter chapter 2, starting at verse 20. Verse 21. Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin and no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, that's the cross, so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you were like sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. Jesus went through all of that for us because he knew that God had got his back, basically. He trusted himself to the one who is just. He knew that eternally this would work out for the good of humanity and the cosmos. Jesus died for all of creation. Why? Because we're like sheep, and sheep go astray. I remember once when I was at Bible college going to preach in a church up north. It was the earliest Baptist church building, and it was miles, literally about 12 miles from anywhere. And we asked the people who were there, why is this church so far away from any town or village? And they said, well, this was in the time when it was illegal to be a Baptist. You had to be Catholic or C of E. And so if you were worshipping as a Baptist or a Methodist or any of the other free church denominations, you would be arrested and punished, maybe even killed. So this church building was built on a hill, miles away from anywhere, so that as they were worshipping on a Sunday, if they saw the enemy troops coming, they could leg it. Imagine how distracting that must be. I'm going to let you into a secret. When we were doing the service on Sunday, about 7 minutes into it, 3 policemen came to the main doors of the church and were knocking on them and ringing the doorbell trying to get in. And so I was doing the service to you with one eye on them, thinking someone from the back needs to go and talk to these policemen. All kinds of things were going through my head for those 5 minutes that seemed like an age whilst they stood at the door and we couldn't do anything to let them in. It was distracting. When I was preaching at that church, there was a back window, and as I was preaching, a sheep walked past the back window, just looked in, completely knocked me off my stride of my sermon. That sheep had gone astray. And we all do, don't we? We hate to admit it. We don't like to admit that we haven't got it all together, most of us. We've been trained in our culture to be omnicompetent, be able to do everything. I've learned in my job as a minister to not try and learn to do everything deliberately. It's a lifestyle choice. Because I don't need to be able to do everything, because there are other people that can do things that I can't do, and they can do it far better. But that's the culture that we are trained in. You must have it all together all the time. And so to admit that we are sheep that have gone astray is a painful thing to do. It goes directly against the pride that is instilled in us by our culture. Whatever we think of how the government are leading us through this current crisis, I believe, I hope, they're doing their best. But the pressure on them to come across as if they've got it all together and they know all the answers must be absolutely exhausting. And so I think for us as sheep to go astray, it's just as exhausting after we've gone astray to not admit that we have. No, I'm fine. That didn't hurt anyone. It didn't affect anyone. That hasn't put my relationship with God at an angle and made it awkward. I said something to someone probably a week or two ago on Facebook, and it just rankled in my mind. And I thought, no, I'll leave it on this, fine. No, don't worry about it. But it kept coming back. And in the end, I had to admit that I think with that comment, I'd gone astray. I hadn't said anything mean or racist or sexist or any of that, but it just didn't sit well with my soul. And so I had to take it down. We, like sheep, have gone astray. The good news of Jesus' parable in Luke 10, where he says one about a widow who loses a coin, and about a shepherd who loses some sheep, and about a father who loses a son. The shepherd one, it says that the shepherd, if he has 99 sheep in the pen but loses one of them, goes and gets the one that's gone astray. It's a bit daft, maybe, or was that too strong a word? That you would leave the 99 defenceless to go and get the one that's astray. That you'd leave the 99 good church-going folk together to go and get the one that's wandered off. But that's what Jesus says God is like. That God goes out looking for us. And we can keep running away from God. Even when we see him on the horizon as the shepherd that he is, we can keep running and keep going and going and going. But that moment when we turn back, and the biblical phrase for that is repent, to turn 180 degrees in your mind, which then influences your heart, that then influences your actions. When we turn back to God, we are his. For you, like sheep, going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your soul. Overseer is like the bishop. He's the one who gives that direction and that security and that comfort. The overseer, the shepherd of our soul. Soul is the very essence of who we are as human beings. It's not about my looks or my bank balance or my job title or any of those things. It's who I was when I breathed my first and who I am when I breathe my last and go into eternity, my soul. For you were like sheep going astray. Yep, I do all the time, and I don't glory in it, and I don't excuse it, and I don't pass over it, but sometimes I try and run away from it, and that only leads me further away from God. When I admit that I go astray and turn back to God, he's there as my shepherd, my overseer, because he came out to find me and risked that I would reject him. Can I encourage you, take a moment, read that passage in 1 Peter 2, verse 21 to 25. Make it a prayer for you right now. And if you've gone astray like a sheep, why not come back to the overseer, the shepherd of your soul? Take care. See you on Sunday at 10 a.m. for our service.